Good morning, everyone. It is an absolute delight to welcome you this morning to the Student Support Showcase. We have a phenomenal lineup of people around the institution who value supporting students and know, not only through informed data, but also personal experience, just how much of a difference a support hub can make for our students. And I want to start formally by thanking you all for carving out time and space in your calendar for showing up today and for your patience bearing with us. There was a few fire drills, building relocations, and a few technical issues this morning. So I'd like to acknowledge your patience. Chi-Chi, can I ask you to move to the next slide? Thank you. I would like to start formally by acknowledging the Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people of the first inhabitants of this country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and elders past, present and emerging on the land on which we join this webinar today. And wherever you are around Queensland or afar, acknowledge the traditional owners. For us in Townsville, those joining in Townsville, it is the Bindal and the Walgarookaba people. For those on the Cairns campus, it is the Jabberkai, the Irukandji and the Gumayundi people. And we may even have people joining us from afar to our Mackay Study Centre, Ubera and Kalkadoon and Mount Isa, and even as far as Thursday Island, the Kararaga group as well. So I would also like to, in the spirit of reconciliation, acknowledge the valuable contribution that Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples continue to make to James Cook University and the broader community rather. Thanks, Chi-Chi. A little bit of housekeeping, because we're here for the long haul today with lots of speakers and lots of information. If you would like any of the slides, we will make sure that they are sent out to everyone who's registered today. But you might notice that the Zoom is set up as a webinar today, and that means that we will have a Q&A function. Down the bottom of your screen, you can see the black toolbar there. It means that we'll be hearing from lots of people and services around the institution, and you may have a burning question. And to keep our time moving, we would ask you to type in a question in the Q&A section, and the relative service provider will get back to you or respond in the moment in real time so that you've got answers to your questions. It's a day like this that we come together and we celebrate the remarkable support available for our students. And I'd like to really dive on in now to our first presenters today. From the International Student Support, we have Alex Salvador and Catherine Elliott.
All right, cool.
Good morning, hello.
Good morning. Thanks, Kylie, and thanks for inviting us along to the showcase. We're really happy to be here. So as Kylie mentioned, this is Alex and I'm Catherine from International Student Support. We're located in Townsville. We have 5 staff members on our Townsville team. We've got a photo there of our Townsville team. So Louise Myers is the manager of our team. She's in the middle there. We've also got Linda Edwards and also Lyndall Ram. On our Cairns campus, we've got 3 lovely staff members. The photo is there. We've got Shanyang Guo, Christine Martin and Melissa Maroy. So in both Townsville and Cairns, we're located at the Student Centre and we're available to see students. Usually most of the hours at the Student Centre is open. In Townsville, we will be offering a drop-in room available to students in orientation week. So we're actually located in the drop-in room at the moment. So from next week, instead of students coming up to the Student Centre counter, they can come and see us in our drop-in room. Another way for students to contact us is by coming to our Cafe International, which will be starting on Tuesdays from week 1. So that will be every Tuesday from 10:30 to 11:30 in Townsville and Cairns. And that's just a way for students to come and meet with us in a bit more of an informal setting. All right, so the next slide is to explain a little bit about international students. Who are they, and what they're studying with us. So we have a lot of students here at the moment doing their full degree, and that can be, you know, undergraduate students, postgrad. We have a big variety, a big component of higher degree by research students here at the moment.
I think it's about over 50% are internationals.
Yeah, a huge chunk. I guess before COVID, a lot of students were coming here to do a study abroad or an exchange program. So that's where they would come to do a semester or a year over here, and then transfer their studies, their credits back to their home universities. We also have JCU Pathways, so that would be a lot of the diploma courses. We've got the Diploma of Higher Education at the moment. Yeah, next slide, please. All right, so if you come across an international student and they don't know who the International Student Support Team are, I guess the top 3 things that you can tell them about this are basically where we are located. We're at the Student Centre in both Townsville and Cairns. You can tell them how they can contact us by phone, by email. They can drop in and ask to see one of the international team at the Student Centre. If it's something that might take a little bit longer, we do ask that they make an appointment just to make sure that, you know, we're going to be available to see them for that time. And basically we want them to see us as their first point of contact. So if they're having any personal or welfare issues or any visa issues, academic issues, we'd like them to come and see us if they're not sure who to go to. They can come to us, we can refer them to different service points of the campus and try and help them resolve that issue. We also host a lot of different social activities throughout the semester, and we post them all on our Facebook group. So you're welcome to have a look at the Facebook group. It's called Townsville JCU International and Cairns JCU International. And from week 1, like I mentioned, we'll be running our Cafe International every week, and our first welcome barbecue, which is on the 3rd of March.
There you go. I'm aware of the time, so we're going to zoom through this very quickly. So how do we help students? We are supporting students before they arrive in country to the very end, where we send them home to their respective countries. So we organize pre-departure webinars just like this to help them prepare for their arrival. We publish an international student guide, electronic format that's available online, so the students, prospective students, can find out about our courses or find out more information about what they need to do before they get here. We actually organize airport arrival service in Townsville and Cairns. So they contact us, let us know what time they're arriving, and we organize an airport pickup for them, and we'll take them to their accommodation. So with accommodation, we do provide them with information on that and some support during their time here. The first big thing that they do when they arrive here, the international students, is attend one of these international student orientation, where we cover all those topics about studying at JCU, about living in Queensland, safety, visa things, and so on. We tell them where to get a cheap bicycle that they can get around with, as well as some of the things to do in and around Townsville. Next slide, please, YouTube. Again, we provide support to our students. We do a lot of academic monitoring. So we do a report on who's at risk and who's not, and we have meetings with them individually, and we refer them to the relevant learning advisors or lecturers and so on. We have a number of students on scholarship here, so we have to make sure that they're complying with all the scholarship obligations. And whenever students need to take some leave or extend their study, we are the people they come to. Anything to do with their visa is really between them and the Department of Home Affairs, but we need to remind the students about the conditions of their specific visa that they are here. Crisis support, after assistance lines, personal well-being support, all those things, we are the first go-to people here at JCU if they're not sure. They're aware of the well-being services, of counseling and so on, but often they come to us because they know who we are when they first arrive here, and we refer them to the relevant services at the university. As Catherine said earlier, we organize a lot of social events, and the big one right at the end is the big completion ceremony. It's like a graduation ceremony just to mark the end of their time here at university. Next slide, please. So some of the ongoing challenges for international students, and I know that many of you will be aware of these. When the students get here, obviously it's adjusting to their new environment. Some of our North American and European students coming here in February suffer a bit with the humidity and with the heat and so on. But also not just the physical environment, but it's also the academic environment. A lot of our students are used to different modes or different ways of learning. And these are the things that we remind them of, or we give them information about when they get here initially. So a lot of them are not familiar with plagiarism rules, the different weighting of assignments and assessments and so on. We have students experiencing social issues, obviously, homesickness. They find that it's not easy to make friends with Australians. I don't know why, but it is something that they give us feedback on. Alcohol use or not using or not taking alcohol is another big issue that is experienced by a lot of our international students. I mean, even the English language itself. I mean, all of our international students who are undertaking full degree here do meet the English entry requirements. Having said that, a lot of them still have a lot of challenges and difficulties with the Australian English language. And then there's the culture shock, everything that goes with that. There's a lot of issues and challenges for our international students when they get here. So what we do to try and address that is we organize these social events. We implement all kinds of strategies to make sure that their settlement here is easier, so that they're able to get the most out of their education that they've come for. The other ongoing challenge, as the slide shows, is compliance with visa conditions. They have visa conditions such as only being able to work a certain number of hours, not having to be enrolled full-time. I mean, having to be enrolled full-time, not enrolling in less than 4 subjects and so on. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's about 8 minutes gone of our presentation. That's our contact details there. Email internationalsupport@jcu.edu.au. Again, we are located at the Student Centre, A1 in Cairns and 134 in Townsville. Any questions? Pop it into the chat. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you so much, Catherine. You did remarkably well there, so I'm not going to eat into the time, but I will remind everyone, if there is a question today for Alex or Catherine, please pop it into the Q&A and they'll answer it for you. I would like to introduce our next special guest today, but before I do that, I'd like to shout out and give a big warm welcome to all new JCU staff members this year. I was lucky enough to meet some in our formal induction process last Thursday and Friday. And this is a beautiful opportunity, if you're joining today, to really find out about all the support services at JCU. And next up, we have Student Equity and Wellbeing. And we have Katie Lang here today to share with us about the wonderful supports that help so many students.
Thank you, Kylie. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie, and I'm one of the psychologists here at Student Equity and Wellbeing in the JCU Counselling Service. So who are we with Student Equity and Wellbeing? We're a multidisciplinary service, and our aim or our goal is to work proactively to support students, to help them build on their capacity to manage life situations that could impact on their engagement and their success with their studies. So we know that life happens outside of their studies, and we want to make sure that they're not being unfairly impacted by that, and that they have the same, as much as possible, the same opportunities to succeed. We are a free and confidential service for all enrolled students. We do have an appointment-based system with appointments available Monday to Friday. We offer appointments available via telehealth, so Zoom and phone, and also in person. We do have a bit of a restriction on the amount of availability we have for the in-person appointments, just because of the restrictions due to COVID, but we do have them available. And we have counsellors and clinicians based in both Townsville and in Cairns. So if it's a telehealth appointment, then it could be that a Cairns-based clinician is supporting a student based in Townsville or somewhere else. We also have intake processes in which that would involve a 25-minute phone call, and we'll go into a bit more detail about that in a moment. We also facilitate referrals, so both within JCU, so referring students to JCU International, for example, or student advocacy, and we can also refer students externally to other community supports. So JCU Health being one of the main ones that we would refer to, or Headspace, for example. And also just a little note there around if you are wanting to access counselling and wellbeing support for yourself as a staff member, or if you're wanting to support a fellow colleague, that would be available through the EAP. So in terms of the services that we offer, we have our accessibility services, our counselling and wellbeing, and our multi-faith chaplaincy, and also the equity programs. We deliver mental health first aid, accredited training for staff and for students, so the standard training, the MHFA for the suicidal person, and also refresher training. We have resources available on our website that can be used by staff and students, and we also develop and deliver group work and workshops in collaboration with academics. So some of the topics that we have supported students with, managing stress and anxiety, suicide awareness, bullying and harassment, working with students with a disability or health condition, and successful transitions. So a little bit more about accessibility services. Our accessibility advisors, who mostly have the occupational therapist and rehabilitation counsellor background, and we also have support officers. Their goal is to support students with a documented disability, injury, illness or health condition, to build on and develop strategies to manage their health while at university. It can be something that's pre-existing, so the student is already experiencing, chronic ill health condition prior to study, or it can be something that occurs unexpectedly throughout their journey. The advisors work within legislative requirements to recommend reasonable adjustments for students, and some examples include accessing assistive technology or equipment, in-class adjustments, examination adjustments, etc. We do have a registration process, so students need to present supportive documentation for their disability or their health condition or injury. So that could be from a GP, from a psychiatrist, a specialist, a health specialist in community, a psychologist, in order to obtain those reasonable adjustments. And our accessibility advisors work really closely with the academics to develop and implement those adjustments, and also to support them with their engagement with students registered with the service. Appointments are available for accessibility for prospective students. And the main message that we like to really highlight is that early registration does equal better outcomes for students. So for counselling and wellbeing, we do have student wellbeing counsellors, and their backgrounds are sort of social work, psychology and youth work, as well as senior counsellors who are primarily psychologists and occupational therapists. We do use a triage system to ensure that students are booked according to their needs and also their sort of sense of urgency or severity. We offer one-off sessions. We also offer ongoing support in up to 10 appointments per calendar year. And as I said before, we refer within JCU and also to community services. And some of the common presentations, I won't go through all of them, but emotional wellbeing, mental health support, stress management, motivation, depression, anxiety, relationship issues, substance and gambling, sexual assault, harassment, bullying, grief and loss, and domestic and family violence. Please note that we do provide support letters for students for special consideration applications. So, for example, if they're wanting to request an extension, and we provide them at our discretion, only if the student has received substantial counselling as a client of our service, or if they're able to demonstrate extenuating circumstances during their first appointment. So we try not to encourage academics just referring students to our service if they haven't connected already, just to obtain that documentation, because we're not always able to provide that if they've only attended that first appointment. And we also offer emergency appointments for students if they meet the required threshold. and those students are assessed at their first point of engagement by our student support officer. So some of the feedback that we have as part of a survey that we sent to our students who accessed our services in 2019, there was a fair portion of students who were extremely satisfied with our service. So some of the feedback, based on my experience, I would recommend JCU Student Counselling and Wellbeing to other students. Very impressed with the service overall, from front office admin to counselling and communication. Most definitely assisted me through an extremely difficult year. Without this service and appropriate advice and support, I would have had to withdraw from my degree due to severe hardship I have endured in 2019. The service has been the most valuable of all services I have accessed at JCU. However, appointment wait times can be a little long at times of high demand. We'll just go to the next one. Yep. So accessing the JCU Student Counselling and Wellbeing Services allowed me to engage more fully with my studies. And again, a high portion of students who were extremely satisfied with that. I would not have continued my studies without the support of the service. Without these services available, I know I would have dropped out of uni. I feel like JCU goes above and beyond to see their students succeed. The counsellor understood that my degree is challenging and didn't try and force generic time management and de-stressing strategies on me. I walked in feeling like I was crazy and came out understanding that my mental health was actually okay. I was just experiencing a lot of life challenges that made functioning a bit more difficult. And if we go to the next one. Yep, I have noticed a positive change in my wellbeing since accessing the service. So mostly extremely satisfied. It was comforting to know there are people willing to help you get through tough times. Accessing the service made me realise that my problems aren't a burden. And I've completed my studies and returned to my home country in PNG. I would like to thank the counsellor that took the time out to hear me out on my case. So just quickly, a little bit about the multi-faith chaplaincy. We have a chaplain here at JCU named Crystal. So she offers pastoral care, spiritual and religious support for any religious or spiritual backgrounds. And she provides support to students and staff, also supporting and linking people into community, to local places of worship. And we have the dedicated multi-faith prayer rooms in Cairns and Townsville. So just quickly, in terms of making an appointment, at first point of call, it's the student support officer. They triage the request and they'll book the student with the appropriate service and the next available appointment. Students who are new to the service or haven't engaged in a while will first do a phone intake, and we try to get students in within 72 hours for that first intake. And if you're making an appointment on behalf of the student, please ensure the student is aware of the referral and that they have provided consent to engage with our service. So those are our details. You can find us on our JCU Student Equity and Wellbeing website. And in terms of contacting us, it can be via phone, email, or in person, or we have an online booking. If we just go to the next one, yep. So just finally, a little bit about our JCU Respect. So for you as staff members, just I guess a bit of a reminder, we have the online modules that are there, so have you completed them? And they're available to all students from this teaching period. We do have our sexual misconduct officers available as well, who can support students and staff, and again, it's confidential. And we also have on our wellbeing, safety and wellbeing website, we have resources that are available there for staff and students. We have a sexual harassment and sexual assault section. So there's information there about how to support someone following a disclosure and how to submit the online report, and also the details of those sexual misconduct officers. And just also, we have a couple of other important documents that are available on our webpage, including responding to suicide risk and disruptive and dangerous behaviours response flow charts. So good to just be aware of, to go and have a bit of a refresh if you haven't in a while, and also know that they're there in case you need to access them at any time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Katie. And I noticed that there is a question in the Q&A section, and thank you, Jennifer, for putting that in, and Katie will get onto that to respond. And think there's some really valid points that Katie has shared with us for how we might recommend and refer students. And also she mentioned the EAP. You can find that on the staff page, and that is the Employee Assistance Program. That's the service that staff can use at any time throughout the semester or study period. So I think moving straight along now, we're going to invite Bronwyn Matheson from the library to share with us all of the great supports available there.
Oh, thank you, Kylie. And hi, everybody. So you can pop to the next slide. Thanks, Chi-Chi. For those that are new to JCU, the Library and Information Service has 2 campus libraries. So the Nommabutta campus in Cairns has 1 main library, and the Bebeguyumba campus here in Townsville has the Eddie Koike Mabo Library, which you can see in the background of our website. It's a lovely building you can't miss. But largely, most people will, most of the time, access our library resources online. So something which reaches people, Singapore, Brisbane campus, all around Australia and the world, wherever they're studying. So we've undergone a lot of big changes over the last year, and just launching this year, I notice a lot of people in the attendance list have been at JCU for a while. So I think it's well worth us just outlining what's brand new this year. We now have 3-week loans for our physical books, but the big news is they are auto-renewed for you. So you don't need to take any action. What this does mean, anyone browsing our catalogue, please make note to put a request or a hold on a book, any book you're interested in. That prompts the due date to be enacted, if you like, and then the book will return for you. So that's quite a big change. We won't have 2-day loan books, but what we do is monitor our collection, and anything that's in high use will move to a 3-day loan period while it's in high demand, and then it will revert back to the 3-week loan. Something that a lot of people have had issues with in the past, staff and student identities being different with the library. Don't worry about that anymore. You have a single identity. It's a lot simpler. And we've got on board with the single sign-on, and it's a lot more personalised for you to save your searches, tag your favourites, and see what you've got on loan, what requests you have, and things like that, all within your library account. So we think they're great improvements. Any further questions from existing JCU staff, I'm happy to follow up with later on. Next slide, thanks, Chi-Chi. So just in general, our key library facilities are convenient opening hours, which do include weekends and evenings, and we have extended hours during the peak study periods at Bebeguyumba and Nommabutta campus libraries. We also have comfortable study spaces that are zoned for student requirements. So there are zones for collaboration and zones for silent study with an in-between floor as well. We also have access to computers, Eduroam, printing, scanning, and 3D printing services. Thank you. A big part of what we do is our library collections and teaching resources. So our online collections, as well as our physical collections for all students, online is available 24/7 access for everybody. If you're an enrolled student and you're further than 50 kilometres of our libraries, we do have an off-campus service for those physical books that you can access, and we'll post you the books and you post them back to us. But most people use our online resources most of the time. We have a big range of library guides and resources that cover many of your needs. So library guides from subject area specialties to how to use EndNote, how to write a literature review, things like that. Almost all subjects have a reading list, which has prescribed and recommended readings for all students in their courses. And every subject in LearnJCU has a linked library guide tailored to that subject area. And that's under a tool called Your Library in the LearnJCU menu. Another big change for this year that we worked on last year is you may have made use of something called the InfoSkills Road Trip. And it was a module-based resource to help students learn the basics of their information skills. So we've completely refreshed it and redefined it thanks to the great work of a whole lot of JCU librarians. And what we have now is the InfoSkills Toolkit. It's a lot cleaner lines, streamlined based on feedback from our previous resource. And it covers a whole series of modules based around defining your topic, searching resources, evaluating resources, and referencing sources, which is hugely helpful for all students who may have had a break from study, either first year, or we find it's also very useful postgraduate and international students find this type of help very valuable as well. And it works in any order. You don't have to work through all modules. You can make use of it by jumping through different parts. And it's for all teaching staff can make use of it in any way they would like to as well. Next slide, thank you. So our biggest resource, our library people, and we do provide face-to-face and online service during all of our opening hours. Our service points and chat service are the starting point for students. So if you're a professional staff member, that's your key point to remember. Encourage students to our service points and chat service in the first instance. We use SAF grants to provide info help rovers for peer-supported first-tier IT help and basic query help. And we do run a library workshop calendar throughout the year, which is mostly happening online in 2021. And we cover topics such as researching, referencing, and other relevant topics. And we do have a team of liaison librarians who assist with subject-specific topics in person and in classrooms. This is a focus for JCU Library this year, is we do want to bring open educational resources to the forefront so that people are fully aware of them. If they hear about these things called OERs, that you know what they are. So this, I won't go into detail here. It's just so you know that that's a focus of our work this year, and it is to benefit students by providing reduced costs and reduced accessibility issues but maintaining quality education. This slide is really just for your later use so that you have all the resource links that I've mentioned that you can go back to. And the final slide is just something, again, we produced last year, and I do think it's really helpful that there's a huge range of content created by the library last year for JCU 50th anniversary projects. And this has created beautiful digital content that is available for all library users, and including teaching staff and researchers and students and any interested people. So please explore if you haven't seen any of these things before. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bronwyn. There's lots of interesting new additions to the library, and if anyone did get to see the 50th celebration exhibition, you probably will agree that it was a huge body of work and celebrating so many stories across our institution and beyond in our region. I would like to invite now Vanessa Boys from the Student Centre to share about the work that this integral area does for students and staff.
Thanks, Kylie. Good morning, everybody. My name is Vanessa, or Ness. I'm the supervisor of the Client Services team in Cairns. Claire is a supervisor of the Client Services team in Townsville. Sharon Schultz is the team leader, and Kerry Conway is the manager. We're just going to have a quick look at the teams. So Townsville team, you can see lovely Claire there, manages 10 permanent staff. Casuals do support with peak period and conversions, and the outbound conversions is managed predominantly in Townsville. So you'll probably see a couple of familiar faces. Next slide, please, Chi. And then in the Cairns team, we're slightly smaller. So we have 8 permanent staff, and our casual help comes from Matt and Jason. The casuals are so invaluable for us during peak period because the number of inquiries we get just spike up. So it allows us to really be able to respond to our current and prospective students in a timely manner. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of familiar faces there. If not, look, a big part of what we do is referring to other areas. So referring to like a lot of the other presenters today, or to the colleges or different areas. So if there's not familiar faces, I'm sure there soon will be. Next slide, please, Chi. So what do we do? I think the best thing for us is to think of us as sort of like the first point of contact for both current and prospective students. We're required to know a lot of information, so pretty much a little bit about everything to be able to provide the right advice. So a way that you can help us is if there's changes or updates in your area, if there's anything that you think is going to affect students or students might have questions about, let us know. That makes it so much easier for us informing, because sometimes we find things out from the students and that's not always the best way to go about it. So you can sort of contact Claire or myself or Kerry or Sharon. It doesn't really matter who. We share all the information around. So if you think that your students or your areas might have changes that impact the students, let us know so we can help support you. We receive inquiries, so face-to-face, over the counter on the city campus and the main campuses, as well as via chat, email, through book a call and phones. I've popped a couple of topics up there, but if you just think of any question any current or prospective student might ask, they tend to ask it of us first. Next slide, please, Chi. So we do support other areas. So we're quite familiar with, future students, student transitions and engagement, the marketing team, and helping with different presentations and open days and different bits and pieces. And it seems like recent years there's been something every year, whether it was like the Uni Hall fire or the Townsville floods or COVID last year. So hopefully this year is still a crazy year, but nothing too manic. If there is, though, keep us in mind as the first point of contact for students when those things happen. So again, I think it's sort of just realising our connection to them and to you, and acting as that nice mediator in between. And we also support external stakeholders as well, like the University of Third Age, U3A, a lot of you will have heard of that, as well as the Department of Transport and Main Roads. So we issue students with their tertiary transport concession sticker and are audited by Queensland Transport in that way as well. So we work with a lot of different areas. And we really, really, really do enjoy working collaboratively. So just because we haven't worked together before doesn't mean we shouldn't. So definitely reach out if there's ways that we can support you. Next slide, please, Chi. So as I mentioned before, the way that students get in contact with us is there. So the generally inbound inquiries that we do have the conversion team that obviously makes outbound calls, and students can also, or current or prospective students, can book a call, so request that we give them a call back at a time that suits them. And having these different sort of modes of communication has definitely, we've seen over the last few years of introducing them, a big change in how students communicate with us. And I think a lot of other areas would see the same as well. Like the student themselves are quite different to what they were, maybe 10 years ago. So it's interesting to see. I've popped some common inquiries that we get and some high volume periods. Like everywhere, we have, times that are busier than others. We're crazy at the moment. It's a little bit hectic. I looked at the stats for January and we're getting around 3,000 incoming inquiries a week. So if you divide that by the number of staff that we've got, you can imagine we're pretty flat chat. Sometimes a counter isn't always busy, but it might be phones and chat going off out the back. So different things like that. I think just sort of knowing like when competitive courses open, all the inquiries tend to come through to us, or we'll see results or progressions, things like that at the same time each year. It will be interesting for us with trimesters now to see if that changes a lot, or whether it kind of minimises it at the normal periods of time and we see it spread out. So that'll be interesting for us this year. So top 3 things that students should know about us is ask a question. I think that's probably the biggest thing. A lot of you would know as well, students tend to listen to other students and they don't always give each other the right advice. And sometimes we've seen it land students in tricky situations. So there's really no such thing as a dumb question. I mean, we've been asked whether a new student can bring their horse to stay with them in accommodation. Like, you can ask us anything. And I think I'd encourage, like, if you're talking to students and you're not sure, they're not sure, just, we're super friendly, we're real people and we're here to help. They can contact us, you know, a multitude of ways if they don't want to come in or speak over the phone, which a lot of students don't like speaking over the phone. If they get their parent or grandparent to call us, though, that can be a little bit challenging, but we can work around it. And just because we're on, or you're on break or semester breaks on, doesn't mean that we are. We tend to work all year except the public holidays, because Christmas is super busy for us with the major off rounds. So we're here, we tend to be here. I think the other thing I'll probably say for staff, you know, what fellow staff could know is that we are here to help. So even if you have a question and you're not sure where to go, just reach out to Claire or Sharon or Kerry or I, and we'll be able to hopefully help you or point you in the right direction. I didn't mention, and I haven't had a look, but there might be some questions in the QA. Otherwise, you can search me out on the staff search if you have anything you want to chat about. Thanks, Kylie.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. It's an integral service as well, and I know I've used it and harassed in a good way your staff, and always have been given information and referral to who will help me out. So thank you. I can see that's the engine room behind everything that we do outwardly facing. And I guess the Student Centre has that Tier 2 support for inquiries. So I would like to ask Beck Tottle to join us and share a little bit about the Tier 2 inquiry services.
Thanks, Kylie. Hi all, I'm Beck. I'm the Supervisor of the Academic Administration and Enrolment Team based in Cairns. I'm also based on the Cairns campus is Anita Christian. She's our Senior Academic Liaison Coordinator. On the Townsville campus, we have Mary O'Donnell, who's my counterpart, and she's also the Supervisor. Judy Spargo, she's the advisor, and Jodie Giesman, she's the manager. We have a large team of 15 enrolment officers between the Townsville and Cairns campus who are currently extremely busy with our very keen students at the moment. Next slide, thanks, Chi-Chi. This is a list, you might have to enter here again as well, of what we're currently working on a day-to-day basis. Chi-Chi, you might need to press enter. There we go, beautiful. It looked like we did nothing. Never a dull day and always plenty of work to do. When we're not assisting students with their inquiries, we're also trying to be proactive, looking at cohorts of students and sending them study plans and doing a lot of background checks and communicating with students that are incorrectly enrolled and doing reporting. One of our processes is opening and closing class registration and fielding the inquiries from students that have clashes or problems. And I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the timetabling and college admin teams who have made this one of the best class registers we've had so far. So thank you all very much. Next slide, thanks, Chi-Chi. Study plans, and more study plans. We've totally lived and breathed study plans this year. We sent out almost 1,000 individual plans to admitted business, joint business, commerce, tourism, hospitality, and event students with the change to the new trimesters. So this has kept us very busy this year. Thanks, Chi-Chi. Next slide. This is a list. Oh, sorry, Chi-Chi, may I ask you to go back one? Sorry. This also is a list of our top 5 inquiries from students, which is enrolment help, study plans, credit, course transfers, and requisite waivers. We appreciate you all fielding our inquiries and regarding the above requests, and hope that you continue to get back to us as quickly as possible so that we can assist our students. Thanks, Chi-Chi. Next slide. Our students contact us via phone, email, video chat, and face-to-face appointments. If you're wanting to contact our team with any questions or help, please give either one of us a call or email enrolments.staff. Next slide. When giving advice to students, we ask if they're out of step with their study plan, get them to contact us. They can make an appointment with us or visit our drop-in sessions between O Week and the first week at the Student Centre. If they're planning on changing course, come and talk to us so we can provide advice now instead of the students enrolling in a full-time semester and finding that only 1 or 2 subjects credit over to their new degree. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Chi-Chi.
Thanks so much, Beck. Like your last slide there, it's one that's been around for a while, but it's always a nice reminder. And I guess next up, Luke Jackson from IT Help Desk will share with us some crucial supports that can help you and allow you to give the correct information to students who might also be in a little bit of a panic around IT issues. Thanks so much, Luke.
No worries. Thanks very much, Kylie. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. My name's Luke. I've been working at the Help Desk for 9 odd years now, and so we see it all. The Help Desk has a fairly broad scope of work in ways, including sort of calming students down for assessment that's overdue and things like that at the last minute. Sorry, Chi-Chi, could we just go back 1 slide if you don't mind? Yep, so essentially as staff, you will be referring students through to us in the same sort of way that you would interact with the Help Desk anyway. In all honesty, out of the 91 participants that we've had, I've probably spoken to you all at some point during the past 9 years. So we take obviously jobs through ServiceNow, and that can obviously lead to a bit of a queue, and we go through the queue. And so usually it's a same day or next day turnaround. Very rarely is it longer than that. It may be just based on time of year and our staffing, but typically it's same sort of day, next day. You can also send an email to ithelpdesk@jcu.edu.au, and that essentially creates a ticket in ServiceNow anyway. So one or the other, that ends up coming through to the ServiceNow queue. You can call us by all means on the phone, and students can call that number as well. There's no secret on that one. That's on the website. We're option 1, and you can call us between 8 to 6 Monday to Friday. Occasionally lunchtimes, we're a little bit slow to answer the phone only because of staffing. So if you're having a very long conversation with a student trying to submit an assessment item in LearnJCU, and a couple of other people are on lunch, it can be longer. So anytime outside of lunchtimes, typically, unless something's spectacularly broken, we answer pretty quickly. We also have a service point in Building 2 on the Townsville campus. So that's for students. If you're a staff member, you've got desktop support that come to you specifically and look after you in your office. So don't wander down to Building 2 looking for someone to assist you in that regard, because the gearing on the service point is essentially student issues. Oh, hi, look, I'm new to JCU and there's this thing called EduRoam, Wi-Fi. Yeah, I need to connect to that. Sure, we can do that for you, no worries at all. Oh, I don't know how the printers work. Yeah, we can show you that. I've forgotten what my username is, what my password is, all that sort of stuff. How do I get into my email? So all of those sort of very low-level inquiries that can stop students from, obviously getting on with their studies. That's the sort of stuff we usually do. That's the bread and butter stuff at the service point. If a student's come to you with a broken iPad or laptop or something or other that's got, a shattered screen, we don't fix anything there. There's no hardware support. And it is quite strictly between 10 and 1 during semesters, because especially with the workplace, the flexible working arrangements, there may not be anybody in Building 2 aside from that time. So if a student comes down at 2 o'clock, there may not be anybody around, quite possibly. So we'll just see how that goes. So with undergrads, they get phone support through ServiceNow and the service point in Building 2. In that regard, we can assist students sort of installing software. So things like Office, a little bit of OneNote, good grief, what's the one I'm looking for? EndNote is the one, and things like that. In terms of using those programs, though, it's sort of best effort depending if we've got time, because sometimes it's very, very busy and a student wants to, figure out how to make an annotated PowerPoint in PowerPoint. we may not have time to sort of sit down and do that, and it's sort of a little bit outside of the scope of work. So it's a real best effort sort of service that we can offer in that regard. Postgrads, on the other hand, you might find yourself as a supervisor to a PhD student. They have their own support teams in very similar manner that that staff do. Desktop support, you will log a job. Desktop support comes around, oh, what's the problem? They've got the job there and they sort it out that way. So in some instances, you still contact, well, in most instances, you still contact the help desk to kick the ball off and log the ticket, etc. But instead of you physically visiting us, IT support visits you if you're a staff member. For student, it's slightly different. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so again, broadly speaking, what we do, basic level IT support. So just the really straightforward sort of stuff. Account assistance, what is my username? How do I get into my email? What's LearnJCU? All that sort of stuff. What we don't necessarily support is sort of unusual software, and I mean unusual in terms of specific software. So if you're an accounting faculty member and say, for example, you've got MYOB, I haven't seen MYOB. I know what it is only by secondhand information, but if a student turned up at Building 2 and said, hey, look, can you help me install or run MYOB? Not really sure, haven't used it before. Yeah, the same with SPSS or say SAS and a few other programs that are very, very specific to a course. You can send them down if you'd like, but like I say, don't overhype the help desk too much because we may very well have never seen that bit of software before. So just maybe couch the support in terms of, oh, they may be able to assist you in that regard, and we'll see what happens. So again, broadly speaking, the contact inquiries, phone inquiry, email, ServiceNow or in person, comes through the help desk. We triage those jobs out. Desktop support to LearnJCU would be our learning environments team. It may go through to student inquiries, and we occasionally resolve the jobs as well. People sort of say, oh, look, well, why can't I just hit up my desktop support team directly? Why can't I call the team leader or whatever? And you probably can. I mean, the phone number's there for whoever it happens to be. But if we're answering the phones and we're doing the paperwork, that allows the technicians to do their work, which is actually fix the problem. So in that regard, we try and support the supporters. Yeah, so that's essentially it. I think the rule of thumb would be if you've got a student who sends you an email saying XYZ, can't figure this out, start the conversation with the help desk. Say, hey, look, call IT or send an email through to IT, as much information as possible, and we'll see if we can figure out as to where it needs to go. Alternatively, there's always Uncle Google. People can do a Google search. The website's improved considerably. We've got knowledge-based articles and things like that for IT support. So there's that as well. But yeah, essentially the biggest change for 2021 is the self-managed password. So there was the big uplift last October, September, where a lot of staff and student accounts were forcibly password resetted. So essentially, some people hadn't reset their password for 20 years. Which isn't real good, whereas in, say, Education Queensland or something like that, you'd be changing your password every 90 days, no ifs or buts. So we're trying to improve the security there. So the good news for students is, like everything else, they can reset their own password now. It's a self-managed thing. They don't need to wait if the help desk is open or on a weekend or those sorts of things. So the way it's supposed to work is when they start their course and they do the onboarding through Get Started or through the Connexus page, they designate a non-JCU email address. So if they can't get into their JCU address, obviously it'll need to be another one. So they might put in a Gmail address or a Yahoo address, BigPond, etc. And once that's done, they can press, there's a forgot password button in LearnJCU, or they can do a Google search for, JCU change password. Either of those things will bring up the account management page and you'll be able to, or that student will be able to reset their password. So that'll be the one password for all JCU services, and staff can do that as well. So password resets or I forgot my passwords, all that sort of account management stuff takes up so much time for the help desk. There are so many inquiries regarding that obviously that's why we're trying to get this self-managed password system as a common thing that people know about. So the only hiccup that they'll have is, if we go on to the next slide, is if they didn't go through that step of putting their email address in for the account recovery, they will still need to contact the help desk there so that we can assist them doing that. So just bear with me there. Okay, yep. So that's essentially what the help desk does. We broadly help students, and like I say, there's, you know, we get calls from concerned parents or friends or whatever it happens to be. You know, oh, what sort of computer should my daughter buy when she's coming out to do medicine, and that sort of thing. So we do a lot of soft support, and then there's obviously the technical side of things that we do as well. So if you'd ever wondered as to what goes on the help desk, we see it all usually, and we can fix most of it. So yeah, flick us an email or log a job and refer those students through. Worst case scenario, we may end up referring them on to someone else, but 9 times out of 10, it's the correct someone else. So thank you very much for your attention today.
Thanks so much, Luke. I always am inspired by IT help desks' optimism and humour for every task that comes their way. And so, yeah, getting those new messages out to students and to your colleagues who may not be here today might be a great coffee chat conversation. Did you know? Dropping that one in so that more people have the correct information, and the IT help desk can get onto those really important aspects of their work. So thanks so much, Luke. I'd like to invite Joanne Webster next from Careers and Employability to share with us about the resources and services available to students.
I'll start again. My name's Jo. I work as the career counsellor within Careers and Employability. And I suppose the main goal of our service is to help our students to develop the skills and the confidence to be able to plan and manage their careers and their employability now and into the future. I think, you know, we all know that we live in very turbulent times and our employment landscape is changing rapidly. And I think our students will need considerable career management expertise to be able to adapt and thrive into the future. So what I'm just going to talk briefly about today is what career support do we provide directly to our students. Our service also works with academics and we work with employers, but I'm just going to focus today on what we can do to help students, where you might be able to refer students to us for this particular support. Okay, so we're a small team. We are basically based on the Cairns and Townsville campuses. We have a manager, a career development learning officer, Tara Harold, who works primarily with academics and embedding career development into curriculum. Then we have 2 career counsellors, that's Jack Sage and myself, and 2 career information officers, Rosie Cummins and Suzanne McIntyre. Both services are on the 1st floor of the library. Thank you. Next slide. One area that we support students is we do provide face-to-face appointments. We provide that support to prospective students, current students, and also our recent graduates. So a student who has graduated from JCU can come back and see us up to 12 months from completion of studies. And I think, like everyone, we offer in-person, phone, and Zoom appointments. We do encourage people, they do need to book to come and see us face-to-face. We also offer an application document feedback service. By that we mean if students are applying for a position and they might have to write a resume or they might have to address particular selection criteria, they can send that through to us, email that through to us, and we'll provide written feedback to them. We ask them to send it to our careers email. We are running a series of workshops or webinars this coming study period. It's called Employable Me. We did run the series last year, and we've now updated all our webinars to incorporate the changes that arose through the COVID situation. So that's our webinar series, and that's available to all students from undergrad through to postgrad. We have quite a few postgrad students come along to these webinars. They're run through Collaborate. Thank you. We also offer academics. I just put this slide in. It's not really directly to students, but we run webinars and workshops in class as well. We can modify the webinars from our Employable Me series to suit a particular cohort, or these are some other webinars that we've run over the last few years. Thank you. We've got a big event coming up in a few weeks' time. For the last, I think it's about over, I'll get in trouble, so I'll just say over 10 years, we've run the Careers Fair. It's an annual event. This year, it will be a virtual Careers Fair. It'll be on the Zoom platform. You can tell students to go and look now. It's open, so students can see who will be coming along. We have a $300 incentive prize for someone who's registered. So that's on offering as well to get the students come. So please, if you can help us spread the word about our virtual Careers Fair on Wednesday, the 17th of March. Thank you. Forget that slide, move on. I thought we were doing Collaborate. We've frozen again, okay. The main way we support students, in addition to our face-to-face and our webinars, is through our resources. And we have quite a few resources for students to help them with their independence in managing their careers. So this is our website. We've got a QR code if you want to go and have a quick look straight away. But I'm going to speak about some of the key resources that we have. We often have students say to us, I had no idea that this existed. So any help in spreading word about these resources would be really appreciated. So next slide, please. I'll just go through some of our key resources. We have just developed this resource. It's called JCU Employability Edge. There's 8 modules. Students can work through the modules as a self-help exercise to develop their confidence in areas such, for example, graduate job search or in mastering written applications. It is also curriculum friendly. So a number of degree areas are incorporating these modules, particularly into, say, Prep for Will programs and things like that, or capstone subjects. So that's a new resource that we developed ourselves. And this is our first year that it will be fully implemented and available to all students. Thank you. Next one. We've also developed this resource. This is in hard copy, which we can send to anyone who would like to have some available at their service points or to give out to students, but it's also on our website. And it's basically trying to say to students, you really need to start now to be prepared for your graduate employment to enhance your chances of success. So we give a number of strategies of what they can do to really make themselves as employable as possible at endpoint. And on the website, each point you click and it gives ideas of actually how you implement these suggestions. Thank you. This is our job board, Career Hub. We've had this for a number of years, and this is where we advertise a whole range of opportunities from casual, part-time, course relevant, graduate, volunteer opportunities. So that sits within our website. That's Career Hub. So for any students who are looking for employment, this is available. Next slide. And this is a new one that we have, we've only recently acquired, and it's another job board. It's called JCU Careers Directory, specifically focuses on graduate employment opportunities, internship opportunities, and virtual experience opportunities. These have really grown, the virtual experience opportunities, particularly now with COVID and the loss of work experience or internship opportunities because of lockdowns and things like that. Virtual experiences have really grown in popularity. Thank you. We've developed a whole suite of discipline-specific resumes. So if a student does need to produce a resume, just let them know. The odds are very high there'll be a resume developed specifically for their particular degree area, giving them an idea of what they can say in their resume to really put their best foot forward. Thank you. We've also developed little 2-page snapshots. So if a student is saying, I'm doing this degree, I have no idea where it's taking me, or I'm a bit lost, you can direct them to our career snapshots. which gives them suggestions on career outcomes and also what they need to be doing while they're tracking through their degree to enhance at the end. So they're very popular, the career snapshots. Thank you. We purchased this resource. It's called Big Interview. This is available for students, but it's also available to staff and to alumni. So any graduate can access Big Interview. You need to access it through our webpage because if you just go directly to Big Interview, you are charged a fee, but it's free for people connected to JCU. And it's a resource to help you prepare for interviews and develop your confidence. So there's little online video tutorials, there's written tutorials. You can record yourself and you play it back. You can send it to people for feedback. Academics are also using this within curriculum. It's used as an assessment tool as well. And we can help academics if you're interested in using Big Interview within your programs. This is available, it's called USEP, University Specialist Employment Partnerships. It's a program that specifically supports students that are graduating and students that have a disability. So to help them with that transition, it's a very tailored support. So if students do have a disability and they're concerned about gaining graduate employment, this relationship we have with USEP is that they will be given a lot of support in making that transition. So that's important to know about. And next one, please. I wanted to just give a little heads up to the support that we do have for staff in embedding career development within their subjects or within a degree. We have the Career Action Plan for Curriculum, which has a lot of ideas. And as I mentioned, we have Tara Harold, our Career Development Learning Officer, who can support staff in embedding career development within their programs. Thank you. All right, so I'm on to my last slide. These are my top 3 messages for students. If you could just help us get this message out, we would really appreciate it. One is to let them know, don't leave their career prep until the final year. They really need to be taking action in every step of the way through their degree so that they're ready at the end. I suppose the most effective way for students to be successful in gaining graduate employment will be to prioritise getting course relevant experience so that they're able to apply and develop their skills and knowledge and also get known by the employers, and also to network. They can really prioritise those 2 things, gaining course relevant experience and networking, so that they hear of opportunities through networking and employers hear of them. And my final point is just to take advantage of our resources and support that we have. I think students underestimate the skill level that is required in managing your career and successfully negotiating your way into graduate employment. And they put it as a low priority, and there is actually a lot involved. So if you can just get the word out to have a look at our resources and make good use of our resources. And that's it. Oh, these are our contact details. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Incredible resources. I know just behind the scenes, chatting to members of your team and hearing about all of the resources, but to have a look there, how an academic staff could scaffold those resources for students across a degree program is quite incredible, and drawing on the expertise of your team. So thank you so much for sharing today. It would be my honour to invite our next speaker to the Student Support Showcase, and that is Leah Hammett from the Indigenous Education and Research Centre. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Kylie. It's a great pleasure to be here with everybody this morning, just hearing all this great information to pass on to our students. So I'm the manager of the Indigenous Student Support team within the Indigenous Education and Research Centre. I'm based on the Nummabudda campus in Cairns, and I'd also like to introduce Helen Jusome, who is the manager in Townsville. So the centre itself comprises of a research section, teaching and learning, and student support. And the teaching and learning obviously covers our Master of Philosophy, Indigenous and Indigenous subjects, But today I'm mainly going to be talking about the student support teams. Oh, thank you. So what do we do? Basically, our goal is to empower our students to be independent, critical and analytical thinkers and learners. Our goal is also to assist them to plan out their academic work, set and achieve their goals. We also deliver a learning support agenda that progresses Indigenous students through to the completion of degree and beyond. And I'll just stay on that. Oops. Oh no, that's okay. We'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So breaking up the teams a little bit. Within each campus, we have academic support advisors and student support advisors. So the academic support advisors work really closely together with the SSAs to case manage student cohorts. Part of their goal is to provide early intervention with students who may be academically underprepared for studying at tertiary level. They also, would develop a learning support plan, which also involves tutoring. So we have free tutoring for our Indigenous self-identified students. And we try to start that tutoring as soon as possible so that our tutors are able to support the students right from the very beginning, from week one of their academic journey, so that students are actually prepared with their subjects. Also, the academic support advisors, or the ASAs, liaise with colleges and academic staff. They also use that holistic approach with the SSAs to help the student get that planning and balance between, their personal lives and their academic life. In Cairns, we have 2 academic support advisor positions, and in Townsville, there's 4 positions. With the student support advisors, their focus is more a pastoral care support, and also as part of their role and the ASA role is contacting the students at a minimum of every 3 weeks. So that's part of our work that we do. Also, they work with the academic support advisors to case manage student cohorts. They make referrals to other parts of the university. So, for example, counselling and wellbeing, careers and employability, student centre, accessibility. We're quite often referring our students to those different parts of the uni, and also externally where it's needed. So we don't actually get involved with students in terms of mental health conditions. We would refer on to student counselling and wellbeing, and also if they have health or disability issues, we would refer them on to accessibility. We also support students around their financial support information, so that is primarily ABStudy, but it also involves other forms of Commonwealth support. We also support students to apply for scholarships, so that's a big part of the SSA role, and also support them to find accommodation, to manage any issues that may come up with accommodation. So another part of our centre role is the winter school and pre-summer school program. Summer pre-program, I should say. And as you are probably aware, we were not able to run those last year because of COVID-19. But generally speaking, the winter school involves that 1 week residential university experience in July. It's a free experience open to all Indigenous students in senior levels 10, 11 and 12 across Australia in high school. We try to get the students to get that real experience and simulation of what it is like to be a tertiary student. They get to meet lecturers and become familiar with the JCU campus. So at the moment, that is held in Townsville. The summer pre-program is a residential program between November and December, and we actually do quite well with that program. We get a lot of students who do go on to study at JCU, so it's a great way for them to become familiar with IERC staff before they've even started studying. Next slide, please. So here is a picture of the Townsville Centre. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture of the Cairns Centre. We're hoping to get some more great pictures of the Cairns Centre and staff this year. So both centres have study rooms. We also have computers that students can use after hours. Students get swipe access to the centres. We have kitchen spaces in both centres. We have video conferencing and meeting rooms. A lot of the students like to come and just hang out at the centre, and it's a great place for them to meet other students, which is something we really like to encourage our students to do, just so that they can build up that sense of having a good support network. We did have 24, we do have 24-hour access generally. And we also have social events such as lunches and barbecues. And of course, due to COVID last year, that was, those events were not as prevalent as we usually have them. So some of the things for you to note, so the centre is available to all self-identified Indigenous students as a primary contact for all inquiries. We also deal with prospective inquiries. So the student support teams are available to all staff in JCU to assist or refer as needed. As I said, we do have the academic support, pastoral support, and we hope to provide an environment that is like a family environment for our students, so that we support them and walk with them throughout their whole journey. So there are our contact details on both campuses. In particular, the IERC student support contact there is the ideal one for that we like to use. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Leah. I'm not sure if all of those who are joining us on this webinar are a bit like me and old school. I've got some sticky notes that I've been taking for messages that I can share with my wider team, and also students who might be using the services from my area. Thank you so much, Leah. So if you need anything, I think that big email there for students is the one that probably needs to be shared out. If you're writing anything down on a sticky note, that's probably one to share with your students. I'd like to invite next up Madeline Keogh from the Student Association to share a little bit about how the Student Association supports students in an advocacy service role.
Hi, thanks, Kylie. So I'm Maddie. I'm from the Student Association. I'm a student advocate. Oh, next slide already. Excellent. So there are 4 advocates in total in our team. So there's myself and Catherine Fraser. We're full-time in Townsville. Then there's Kimberly Thornley. She's up in Cairns and she's full-time. And then there's Gian, who does at the moment temporarily 2 days for the Townsville, Cairns and online campuses, and then 2 other days for the Brisbane campus. So we are not employees of JCU, and as such, we have limited access to the information held by JCU regarding students. Our position is funded through the mandatory SAF paid by students, and our service is free and confidential for all JCU students, regardless of their enrolment type or location. They don't have to be a member of the Student Association, And where a student cannot access our services in person, we will assist the student using telephone, video conferencing, or email. Next slide, please. So the student advocacy officer or student advocate's role varies dependent on the student's needs and the relevant applicable JCU policy. We provide student support, assistance, or representation as needed across a range of various academic and welfare areas. Upon initial contact, a student is required now, which is a new thing we've implemented, our new online booking form, which includes agreeing to our service charter, which outlines the advocate's role, the scope of what we can and can't do, and what students can expect when accessing our service. So after the form is submitted, the student will be allocated an advocate who will contact them to work their matter. The main focus of our role is to advise students of their rights under JCU policies and procedures. We empower students to make informed decisions regarding their options, and we encourage students to be proactive in addressing their concerns, but note that at times students may require varying degrees of assistance. So the nature of academic advocacy services offered seeks to empower the students to understand and act on their rights and responsibilities through the provision of timely advice. We provide information on general JCU related questions and issues. We assist in clarifying JCU policies or procedures or any official correspondence from the uni that the student receives, and we can help them respond to it. We support and accompany students to meetings with JCU staff or represent them at hearings. And we support and represent and advocate for students in relation to academic misconduct and appeals to ensure the best appropriate outcomes are achieved. So the most common areas that we do assist with is representing and supporting students, as I've mentioned, through academic misconduct hearings, complaints, both formal and informal, appeals, and just general inquiries. Much of what we do in this arena is explaining the policy and procedures, explain the process, and assist students to prepare their statements, and again, represent them during formal interactions with the university. So we try to take a collaborative approach with JCU as much as possible. However, our duty is ultimately to the student. We are required to follow the student's instructions. Many students appreciate having an independent person to vent their frustration to, knowing that the information remains confidential with us. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also provide students with some limited welfare support. The main areas of support include referrals to JCU support services, including equity and wellbeing and accessibilities. And we also refer to external support services and provide some Centrelink advice. So when a student is affected by, say, extenuating circumstances, we can assist the students to withdraw from subjects, apply for special consideration, extensions, or deferred exams. We can also assist students to appeal staff decisions to deny or reject those requests. We can assist students to get involved also with their fellow students through the clubs and societies on campus, as well as getting them involved in our sports and recreation activities and events. So I suppose the most important thing to note here is that we aren't counsellors, and we do recognise that. So we do refer students quite often to equity and wellbeing when it is mental health related. And we no longer provide student loans. Next slide, please. And so basically what advocacy is, we try to be a one-stop shop for all students, no matter is too big or too small. We will try to help. If we can't help directly with that matter, we will refer them on to where we think is appropriate. So I suppose to note, if you have a student who you think might benefit from advocacy assistance, I would ask that you direct them to our booking form, which is on our website under the support services tab, and then they'll be allocated an advocate. All right, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, Madeline. a really important resource, and that notion of independent support and advocacy is high up on the list. And I know just from listening to everyone so far, it's quite incredible the amount of people at the institution who really do believe that students are at the centre of the university and work tirelessly to support them in any way possible. Thank you so much, Madeline. I would like to, before I introduce our next guest, remind you that this webinar today will be recorded and will be made available for you. And that means you can share it on with your wider teams and groups as well around the institution. It's a really great day to get key information and a really powerful way to go back, you know, when some of these issues might be surfacing across the study semester, or when students go through the life cycle and hit those ups and downs and peaks and troughs. So thanks so much, Madeline. I'd like to introduce Tony Hewitt next from Student Transitions and Engagement to share with you all of the wonderful supports available for students there.
Thanks, Kylie. Contrary to what the screen says, I'm not Joanne Webster. My name's Tony Hewitt, and I'm the Student Transitions and Engagement Advisor based on the Cairns campus. We're a small team. We've only got a team of 3, so there's myself, Claire Murphy, who's our Student Transitions and Engagement Officer on the Cairns campus, and Megan Boland, who is our officer on the Townsville campus. So essentially what we do, we facilitate a suite of strategically designed and timed partnership events for commencing and continuing students. I'll run through those events a little bit more detail throughout the presentation, but I guess the key word there is partnership. We work very collaboratively with other areas of the university, and a lot of our events are based on, you know, promoting the other support services throughout the university. So, and the intended outcomes of our events include improved transition student experience, as well as retention, success, and completion rates. And I guess one of the key points for us too, for students, is that we are resourced by the Student Services and Amenities fees. So that fee goes to all our events that we run as well. So next slide, please. So the 3 areas that we facilitate is, so we run orientation, we run student events, and we also, as of this year, run the Student Mentor Program. And I'll just go through each of those in a little bit more detail now. Thanks, Chi-Chi. So our major event of the year is our undergraduate orientation program, which is run on the Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, and Mount Isa Study Centre sites. And also with it being run online, we also incorporate our external students. So this year, orientation is a bit of a hybrid model where we'll be doing a mixture of online and on-campus events. So all the course activities, information sessions will be run online, but we'll be running campus tours for students, and also the Student Association will be running a number of their social events on campus as well. Important to note that orientation is a 6-week program, so it's not just around O Week. And that 6-week program incorporates the week before O Week, which is this week, O Week, which is next week, and then the first 4 weeks of the study period. So it is that important to know that it is that 6-week program. Also importantly to note that at the end of last year, we launched our new online orientation program. So we've updated the Get Ready for Uni site. So it's now a 6-module based program for students, and students are highly encouraged to get on there and complete those modules prior to week 1. Thanks, Chi-Chi. So other orientations that we also run, we've got our postgraduate orientation night. So this is run on the Cairns and Townsville campuses, and this night provides students with an outline of the support available to them. So it is very specific for the postgrad students, but it's also important to note that no course-specific work is covered in that. It's purely about the student support services available to the students. We also run a second-year success seminar. This year that will be run online, and it just gives academic advice and career development advice for students going into their second year. And we also run a parents and partners information session. Again, this year we've recorded all the presentations, and they actually are up on our Parents and Partners website. So again, that won't be a face-to-face this year. Thanks, Chi Chi. So on to our other events that we run, so our extracurricular events. So these are just our SP1 events. So we run Live at Lunch, so that's run 4 times throughout the study period. And that's just a mixture of entertainment, music, and free food. And it's just a great opportunity for students to just come, relax, and meet with other peers and just connect with peers. We also run our Student Success Week, which is a pre-census activity. The highlight of that is the Student Success Checklist that we get students to complete, which identifies resources and the services available to students. Other activities run throughout the week as well. So there's careers and employability workshops, library workshops, Learning Centre run workshops throughout that week. And we've also got a number of just social events as well, and sporting events as part of that week. So it's a really great week for students to engage in extracurricular activities. Harmony Day does fall on a Sunday this year. So this year we're running it on the Tuesday, the 23rd of March, as opposed to the national date of the 21st. And a great day. Kicks off with a welcome to country, and then we just have a number of hopefully student groups, but also outside community groups come in with plenty of food, entertainment, etc. So it really is a great day on campus. And then finally our exam plan, which is a pre-exam period for students, and again just helps with students, reduce anxiety, give them some tips around exam planning prior to the hectic period of exams. I guess though for students, probably the most important thing they get out of exam plan is that's the day that we bring the farm animals onto campus, which are usually the biggest hit that we have on campus for our events. So thanks, Chi Chi. Also, as I mentioned at the start, so we've taken over the running of the Student Mentor program this year. As you can see on the screen there, so the mission of the JCU Student Mentor program is to encourage, enable and empower new students by linking them with successful peer role models that foster a welcoming, inclusive, supportive and cohesive university community. Thanks, Chi Chi. So how the program works is, so it matches successful student volunteers with commencing undergraduate students from the same course. Important to note that we are the longest running university peer mentor program in Australia, and this year we celebrate our 30th birthday. So it's a great achievement for the program, and it continues to evolve. And we do know from our stats that students who attend O Week and have a student mentor are more successful than non-participants, with a 23% increase in retention and an average 1 GPA increase. So we know these programs are working. Just to give you a quick rundown on the program structure. So as you can see there, so as I mentioned, so we've taken over. So our student transition engagement officers, so Claire and Megan, will be coordinating the program. And you can see we just don't have mentors on the Cairns and Townsville campuses. We've also got mentors at Mount Isa, Mackay and external. So we really do try to offer this program for all undergraduate students. And you'll just see up there last year, just some stats. So last year we had 259 mentors who mentored 3,049 students, which works out to be about 14,000 hours of free support of free support, and it saves the university close to about $450,000 a year as well. Thanks, Chi Chi. So how can mentors help? So I guess it's important to know how mentors can help and what they can't help with. So obviously they just answer general inquiries, help students navigate around the campus. So they'll actually be running the campus tours next week as part of O Week. Link students with the free support services. So when they do their training, they do get a good rundown of the support services available to students. Connecting new students with their peers. So we do that through some peer engagement activities. Give us some advice about study and time management strategies. And I guess most importantly, they just share their knowledge and their experience about how to succeed. So, which is really important. So what they can't help with, so they can't do assessments, help assessments for students, can't do subject tutoring, and they can't offer enrolment advice. So it's pretty clear that the boundaries that they can and can't do. But it's also important to know that, if they do get those sort of questions, they do know the right people to manage, to send the students to. Thanks, Chi Chi. So the communication points for the program. So as you can see, so the mentors communicate regularly with their students via email. And these emails are, again, strategically placed throughout the study period for students. So it might be a little bit difficult to read, but you'll see there, so they send emails out in O Week, which is just welcome to the program, introducing themselves. I guess important to note, because the fact that we're more online at the moment, the mentees are allocated to the mentors. So normally during O Week, we run a Meet the Mentors session where the mentors actually get to choose, the student gets to choose the mentor that they're after. So, but because it's an online, the actual mentees will be allocated to the mentors this time around, which is also what happened in study period 2 last year. So other email points are, so in week 1, in week 2, we do a regroup. So again, hopefully that'll be run on campus this year. Emails in week 3, week 6, week 9, and in week 12, so farewell from the program. So I guess important also to mention, so the mentor program is only for students for that first study period that they operate. We've also modified these email communications for trimester students, so they'll also get the same emails, just at different points. Thanks, Chi Chi. So finally, so here's just so again, at the end of each year, we get the mentees to complete a survey, just measuring the satisfaction of the program. So last year, so 97% of students agreed that their student mentor was a welcoming first point of contact. 98% agreed that their student mentor provided a positive role model with helpful advice for commencing students. And 90% confirmed that they received and read the regular email communications from their student mentor. So again, it shows that it is a positive program, and we do know that the students are engaging in the program, which is fantastic. Thanks, Chi Chi. So finally, so that's just our contact details. So like I said, I'm based in Cairns, same as Claire, and Megan in Townsville. But again, these slides will be sent out, so you'll have our contact details then. So please contact us anytime to discuss O Week. I guess the important point is, if you think you're involved in O Week and you haven't been contacted by anyone, please let us know. But other than that, yeah, any questions around O Week or any events coming up, or how we can help promote your services as well, please get in contact with us. Thanks, Kylie.
Thanks so much, Tony. I think those statistics were incredible around the impact of attending O Week, and that's a great message to be driving home. And I saw that someone had mentioned that they also picked up on that in your presentation, Tony. So thank you very much for sharing with us. And that long-standing mentor program, the peer-to-peer support, is certainly a powerful way. Those words, Tony, that you shared, I wrote them down on a sticky note: encourage, enable, and empower our students. It's very much a proactive outlook. And it's certainly similar to many of the other services that we've heard today. I just want to congratulate you. I'm the last speaker or presenter of the day to share with you about the Learning Centre. But if you haven't had a chance to move around, make sure you wiggle your toes and your fingers in the spirit of looking after yourself and your own well-being. It can be quite a long time to be sitting and listening. And I'm noting that there are still over 80 people in this webinar today. So thank you so much for being a part of it and finding out all the information that can support your students and also alleviate some of the pressures of your own workload. So thanks, Chi Chi. I might ask you to move to the next slide. And while you might not have time or the visual capacity here to make sense of this slide, this is a bit of a snapshot of the multi-layered approach of the Learning Centre. So we work in a number of ways with students and staff, and most obviously at the front end is that we have self-help resources, and that is directly from the Learning Centre webpage. We also offer things like short courses and workshops. We work in with Tony's team to create workshops for the orientation program, and things like academic writing, a bit of a refresher, a basic stats, a maths refresher. You can find out all the details of how to recommend students on our website, or follow us on our Facebook page. It's the JCU Learning Centre, or Twitter. We also have a Twitter account. besides the self-help resources and the generic workshops that we offer, we also have a pretty remarkable program called PASS. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about all of these programs with you and hopefully some stats around the power of the programs. But outside of the peer-assisted study sessions, that peer-to-peer support program, which is dedicated to courses and specific subjects, learning advisors also work with academic staff as integrated learning advisors, and I'll be sharing a little bit about that. But I just want to pique your curiosity. If you see a bit of a trend happening or a lot of requests of students wanting some support to unpack their essay question or assignment topic, or even understand the demands of the academic and literacy and numeracy demands of the assessment regime, learning advisors can certainly help. Thanks, Chi Chi. I'll just get you to move on to the next slide. So for students, the big messages that you can drive home is that we have services in that hybrid model. So the first step really is Studiosity. It's a 24-hour support service, and students can access Studiosity from their individual subject sites under the tools section. But outside of Studiosity, so, you know, that's a really great resource to recommend when students are at home, it's 2 a.m. and instead of rocking in the corner, you know, procrastinating, they can reach out for some support. I'll talk a little bit about what kind of services are on offer there for new staff particularly. But at the first tier of support within the Learning Centre, on the Townsville and Cairns campus, we have a peer advice desk. And 2020 taught us to flip a lot of our service models quite rapidly. And we now also offer a peer advice chat. So in semester time, just like the Lib chat on the library page, the peer advice chat will pop up between the hours of 10 to 4. And students, wherever they are, external, internal, off campus, online, can use that service to gain some support. And so we have the physical desks in the library as well as that online chat. As for learning advice, we have a team of learning advisors across the Townsville and Cairns campus who will work with students via phone, via email, online, via Zoom, to work through any major challenges connected to the academic and numeracy demands of a particular subject. We're not curriculum experts, even though we may have some expertise in certain discipline areas. We're really encouraging and empowering students to become successful independent learners themselves through those channels. So if you need to recommend a student to our services, just get them to jump onto the Learning Centre webpage. There's a big blue button where they can click to book an appointment with a learning advisor and also see all of our resources. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a snapshot on some of the data that we have put together. So that first tier support, Studiosity, was significantly used by undergraduate and postgraduate students in 2020. We saw a 40% increase. And what might make you a little curious is just how many postgraduate students are using that service. So it smashes through a lot of assumptions that our postgraduate students come with all of the capabilities, general capabilities and academic capabilities that they need to do the work. And this service there. So there's two key ways that students can interact with Studiosity, and that is through the writing feedback. They can upload their work and get feedback, or have a Connect Live session, which is like a live chat. Thanks, Chi Chi. And also too, we've done a bit of a data grab around which students are actually using Studiosity across the colleges. And you can see the college breakdown here, just a little bit of a snapshot. So where do students come from? And more importantly, what kind of help do they access and need? So thanks, Chi Chi. Just moving on to the next slide. So we see students across all bands. Next slide, thanks, Chi Chi. And we have quite interesting data that shows us what students ask most for help around. So yes, there's technology, learning strategies, and general assignment support are some of the key areas. This is just a little bit of a transcript from some of our students, and we have put together college-based data sets for you. If you're interested, I've got my contact details at the end. We can certainly share those out, but we've been sharing them with the ADLTs and course teams as well. Thanks, Chi-Chi. So the three top areas that students come for support in the Learning Centre, whether that's through our individual learning advisor consultations or our chat services, are usually around academic writing. It's the thing of, I don't know how to write within this genre. I'm not sure of how to structure it, lay it out. I'm not sure of the correct language, the academic words for reporting and connecting ideas that I can use, and they might not even use those words. A lot of help then is really centered around helping students unpack their assessment task. And that is teaching them how to use or define task words and content words and make a bit of a plan, a study plan. You can see the colleges that also we work with there in that second little graph, but we also work a lot with the third top issue is academic skills. So whether that's from time management, procrastination, or exam strategies, the Learning Centre is very well versed in supporting your students. Thanks, Chi-Chi. And here's a few fun facts of how many students we serviced in the Learning Centre and via our peer advice physical services and online services, and just reiterating those top issues. So, you know, if you're a staff member here watching away today, you might reach out, and you can certainly talk to your ADLTs about that process or send me an email. But we really work with you to really look at the threshold concepts and academic literacy and numeracy standards across your courses, and create resources to support student success in those areas. Thanks, Chi-Chi. Just backtracking a little bit to pass, there is a criteria, and you may already have pass in a subject that you're teaching, but I've just popped down 1, 2, and 3 main criteria for pass being included in your program. And it is that peer-to-peer study session. It's not a reteaching of content, but what subjects are usually targeted is that first year introductory subject where there's sometimes a high failure rate, or the knowledge can be really troublesome and tricky, and that's acknowledged by students. Thanks, Chi-Chi. So last year we noticed that there was a bit of a decline in terms of pass attendance. We flipped it completely online last year, and so we're using that data to really reinforce that we're coming back in a hybrid model this year. So where possible, pass will be face-to-face, and where we might be working across campuses or settings or online, we'll keep those pass sessions online. But there's some really rigorous training behind the pass program, and there's some great statistics that indicate an increase in GPA by those who attend as well. Thanks, Chi-Chi. You can flick through these quite quickly, Chi-Chi. There's about 4 slides here that just give you a bit of an overview of the subjects that are already earmarked for pass. But at the moment, my team, thanks. We'll just stop at that one. Thanks, Chi-Chi. I'm going to make a quick point about that one. My team are at the moment working with academics and colleges and ADLTs to just make sure that we've got the right subjects mapped out for pass. So some late requests do come in, and we where possible, we try to accommodate those changes. I talked a little bit earlier about learning advisors not only working in a student-facing capacity, but also to support staff in an integrated learning advisor way. This is where we might work with you through your subject to create some resources, or even come in a workshop or in one of your Collaborate sessions to support the academic and literacy demands, especially around assessment or academic preparedness or skills as well. I've just put a bit of a hit list here for the college-based learning advisor coordinators there in bold, and the teams. So if you are wanting to reach out to a learning advisor through your college, these are the key personnel to contact, but you can also contact me, and we can make sure that we support you where possible. Thanks, Chi-Chi. We also do workshops. So yes, we participate in the orientation program, but a huge bulk of our workshops are generated from the Integrated Learning Advisor work. So you won't be able to read the list there, but there's many workshops that we do, and it could be from teaching students around medical calculations in nursing to unpacking the essay question in perhaps the Bachelor of Arts program, or even looking at the literacy standards or how to unpack and create a study plan for the first assignment. So in 2020, we covered over 200 workshops through the Integrated Learning Advisor program with a huge number of interactions. Thank you so much, Chi-Chi. I guess this brings me to one of the final points, and I'll make sure I'm also staying to time today. From our working with students at that student facing and also our Integrated Learning Advisor work, the Learning Advisor team, which is relatively small, has spent quite a considerable amount of time over the last 6 to 12 months creating reusable learning objects that academic staff could drop into the LMS, the learning management system, and specific learn subject sites in a scaffolded way to support students across the biggest challenges. So we would be willing to share with you some of those college-based data sets to get an idea of what's happening in your college and at a subject level. And we could also show you and point out the best possible resources that might support your students. And all of those are in the content marketplace. But if you've forgotten anything that I've mentioned so far, I've got my contact details on the next sheet. So whether it's learning and navigating their way online, what it's actually like to not go down into a silo or be isolated. We've got some great H5P packages, infographics, and from building resilience to critically reading, right down to a whole stack of numeracy concepts as well. And some of them are general capabilities that can be I guess, made a little bit more specific for your needs. And so that's something that we absolutely love to do. And we work on a bit of a project-based plan when we're doing that Integrated Learning Advisor work, so we can share and support resources. Thanks, Chi-Chi. Just moving on to the last final slide. So I guess the big take-home message today is for you to think about how the Learning Centre may be of assistance to you and your students. So it could be something like putting in a simple H5P package in your existing Learn site that may alleviate the 4,000 emails that you may get leading up to an assessment item. But it also could be a conversation around student success and engagement, and perhaps even strategies to develop your students' digital capabilities. We really are passionate about supporting staff and students and have a lot of resources that you may not be aware of and are willing to share. Thanks so much, Chi-Chi. I think that might be almost the last slide. So if you want to reach out and connect with us, and if your agenda is similar to ours, developing successful independent students so that they can use these skills in and general capabilities in any other subject beyond the one that they're enrolled in from your perspective, reach out. My email's there. And don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and you can recommend our Facebook page to students. I think more staff hang out on the Twitter account and more students on the Facebook page. But we put up hot tips and great strategies to motivate and keep students engaged as well. Now, I've surely coming to the end of my point, but I just will reiterate that Q&A is there, and we still have quite a number of our presenters online. If you have a burning question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A. And before we close off today, I would really like to acknowledge every single presenter today who shared the wisdom, who shared the service points and contact points. And really, I guess I put down a few notes, shared the resources and we're so open and saying, reach out to us. We would love to help. And also to, I guess, knowing that we are all about inclusion. So whatever services we have also seem to operate in an online way. And we've been really responsive. That's what 2020 has taught us. And this year is going to be an amazing, remarkable year. And with all of the supports that we have at JCU, the students will know that they're not alone and there's support when they need it. They can be overwhelmed at that beginning stage, and we might be too. You've heard a lot today, but I'd encourage you to reach out to any of the services that you'd like to follow up and embed into your own curriculum or subject. There's some other really important reminders today. Behind this event, the Provost team have carefully ensured that presenters have got everything together and that the webinar is working, and also keeping us on time today, which I think we've done remarkably well. And the final person I want to thank today is you. It's clear that you have a vested interest in supporting your students and making life a little bit easier for you. That's a pretty amazing thing to do too, looking after you. So I would like to encourage you to reach out, share the information and the resources with your colleagues who may not have been able to come today, and to remind you that the recording will be available. But maybe we could just use the Q&A for a moment. If you could type in one thing that you're going to take away from today and share with your students. There might be more, but if we could all just maybe just take a moment to type in one thing that you're going to take away, maybe one thing you didn't know, or a service that you're definitely going to check out as a result of being here today. That would be really wonderful for the team who've put this together to get a bit of an indication of how we've hit the mark today. I can see you all racing on in to that Q&A. Thanks, Judy. What a good reminder about studiosity. Yeah, we always forget something. So hence my sticky notes today. It's pretty clear that there's collaboration at the centre, partnerships, and this openness of how can I help staff and students. Thanks, Judy, for sharing. Anyone else want to share in the last few minutes today what you'll take away, or one action, one thing you'll be accountable for, sharing with your students or fellow colleagues? It sounds like everyone's really ready for a little lunch break. Oh, great. It's all coming in. Jennifer, thanks so much for being here. The Info Skills Toolkit. Yes, I wrote notes down about that. It'll be very useful. Stephanie, the Student Association Advocacy. What a power play we've got here. Really, really important. Thanks so much. Liz, lots of great info, clarifying support for international students. How good was that? And hearing about the advocacy. Yeah, we don't always get to hear some of these stories. International student support. I think there's 3 cheers for international student support. Well done. Let's give you a few more minutes to see if anyone would like to contribute what you'll take away as a result of being here today. And I see some of our presenters are perhaps jumping in and typing answers as well. All right. Well, that concludes our Student Support Showcase today. I hope you're feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to take on this thing called Semester 1 2021, a whole new position and place. Thank you everyone for joining in today, and for the whole team who made it possible.